Proud of you. We're going to look at, I want to share with you a little bit about why, how this program even developed and why I think there's a need. And I think it's really kind of important to look at that. So I want to say, for one, thank you for sharing that with me. Then we're going to go over the program, kind of looking at what it does, and then if anybody has any questions. And don't worry about if you don't have any questions, I can give you questions that have been asked by other people, because we've run this program mainly in Australia to start out with, then New Zealand. We're doing the North America launch this year, and starting last year and this year. So if you don't have a question, I'll give you a few to start you out. But raise your hand. Is everybody here thinking about joining the program in some way? Okay, good. I'm so glad. So I'm going to tell you, when I learned how to read, I went back to school, got a degree in psych nursing. I loved it because the only thing I know for sure is that we were created to heal. You know, God has so given us the ability to, kind of repair and serious damage, and He can bring us from one life of hopelessness to another one. So I knew that. I knew that because of my own life, and I knew that because of people that I've seen. So I was really into what I did. I was into what I did so much that I got awards from the governor, I got awards from the state. I was Grand Marshal in the 4th of July parade, And so it was ridiculous, because I think when you really do have passion and you believe in what you're doing, people recognize that. And I would laugh my head off because I thought, a heroin addict in recovery, and I'm Grand Marshal. I mean, everything about it was ridiculous, and God was so incredible. I got promoted in ways that I shouldn't have been promoted with the license I had. I ran groups all over the state. I trained people on running groups. And one day, as I was working, one of my patients was incredibly suicidal. And I mean incredibly. She would break a light bulb and just eat the light bulb. She tried to cut on herself. She would jump up in the air and literally hit her head on the corner of a table so hard that her forehead was like mush. You could feel her forehead, and she had no real bone structure in her forehead. She had done that so many times. She was on chemical restraints. Chemical restraints is that you just give a lot of drugs, a lot of antipsychotics. You try to do as much as you can to keep her safe chemically. That did not work, so they put her in 5-point restraints. 5-point restraints is that you are tied down everywhere, every which way. So the 5-point restraints was really our chemical restraints, 5-point restraints, and then she had one-to-one nursing staff. So one-to-one, the person has to be within arm's distance from her at all times. If this person does anything, you have somebody that can respond really rapidly. And so I'm her nurse. I come in, I'm talking a little bit. There's a student nurse with her, and I'm going to go get her medications. So I walk away to get her medications, and I come back into the restraint room, and the nurse is sitting on the bed, and the patient is gone. And I said, trying to be really polite, where's the patient? And she said, she had to go to the bathroom. She had to what? She had to go to the bathroom. And so the bathroom is in the restraint room, and I'm trying to get in there, but she's barred the door with her body. You can't lock the door in those rooms because they don't put locks. But I'm trying to get in, and I'm pushing with everything in me, and I can't get in, and I am just praying, God, you have to help us. And so finally the door breaks open. She has her head in the toilet, and she's inhaling water and trying to drown herself. And so I had to physically try to pull her out. She had a grip on the toilet bowl that I could not get her out. I got on my bottom. I put my legs against the bowl, and I'm pushing with my arms under her arms, and I'm pushing against the bowl as hard as I could. We finally broke free. Water's all over the place. We are soaking wet. We're both crying. And I said, excuse me, can I pray for you? I don't even know what else to say. We are weeping on the floor. And she said yes, and I prayed for her. A little while later, I got called in my administrator's office, and they said if I pray for a patient again, I will lose my job. And I'm thinking, I could put her in restraints. I could give her as much drugs as you can possibly pump into someone, but prayer was not an option in a secular hospital. And so I just started asking God, you got to get me out of here. I can't tell somebody we can get well and not teach them how to spiritually connect with the God that wants them well, you know? And I'm not down on drugs, I'm not down on intervention, I'm not down on any of that. But what I know is that with God, it is easier. And some people say higher power, whatever you want to say, but it makes it easier when you reach out and know that there's something greater than you. So I started praying about that. I end up stepping in at somebody, I give my testimony in a church the first time. And my pastor's going to baptize me. He wants me to, you need to tell your story. And so I tell my story. And there's 2 publishing houses in the church, a little tiny church in Idaho, when I told my story. And they came up and they said, man, would you ever think of writing that down? And I said, no. My mother-in-law doesn't even know this. I'm married to a guy that his dad's an ambassador to the United States. His mom's a violinist. They are a normal family, and they don't know anything about me. And so I said, no, no, no. And then another publishing house out in New York said the same thing. They were visiting a relative. They said, would you write it down? And then finally someone said, just pray about it. And I really prayed, and what I felt like God said is that people need to know that there's a way out. People need to know that healing is possible. And so we ended up writing the story, all that kind of stuff. And then I started traveling in ministry. And my boss finally said, is that you keep taking weekends off from your nursing job. And if you keep taking weekends off, we gotta let you go. And I said, well, you know what, I'm sorry, I didn't even realize it was a problem because I keep getting people to fill my shifts. So it's not like I'm taking off and not filling my shifts. And they said, no, if people are still resentful because you're taking a lot of weekends off. And so I said, okay, I'm sorry. And my boss and I are friends. And she's like, if you take off again, I'm gonna have to fire you. And she had tears in her eyes. She loves me, And I said, okay, I won't. And then I remembered I had a youth event the next weekend. And so I said, I won't after this next weekend. And she said, if you take off this next weekend, you are fired. And I got up and held her and I said, I loved working with you. And walked out. And I walked out into a ministry. I had no idea. What is ministry? What does that mean? And God said, I will be your boss. I'm like, okay. And what was funny about that is I thought, okay, I'm walking out in ministry. And this is going to be some of you guys too. And I asked God, okay, what do I do? So if you were the pastor, I said, Pastor, I'm called by God. Do you want to hire me? And I'm like, who are you? And they said, you need to call someone else. I called the conference office, the union office, the general conference office. Hey, I'm called by God. And I don't know what to do next. You guys just want to do an interview. No, who are you? I'm a heroin addict in recovery. So I could not get anyone to hire me. God finally said, I'll hire you. But one of the things that he gave me is I specialize in groups, friendship groups, recovery groups. And he said, I want you to write one for the church because the church that I was going to didn't really like using other people's programs. And so I thought the book that changed my life was a book called Steps to Christ. And Desire Ranges, but Steps to Christ. And I don't want to have anybody confused. The Bible changed my life. God changed my life. But what he did is he used these other books to help me understand the Bible better. And so I thought, you know what, I'll write a program on like Steps to Christ. But I'm ADD, I told you that. So 10 years later, the program is still in my head. And this girl out of New Zealand said, that's a genius program. Let's put it on paper. So we put it on paper, we ran it in the community in New Zealand. 300 people showed up from the community and 163 people got baptized after 14 weeks. And we were all shocked. Like, what if people literally want to heal this way and we just don't have programs? And it wasn't that it was a great program. People wanted to get well. And so then I thought, okay, God, if this is the way it is, and I wish I could show you the program that we put out at first. It was done on somebody's home cutter thing. It was photocopied I mean, the pictures were horrible, the paper was horrible, all of that stuff. So it wasn't a professionally put together program. And so I said, if this is going to help someone, if this really is how we're going to reach the community, then you've got to have me meet someone. Like, who would you meet? Like, just from our church, I don't know anybody else's church, but from my Adventist church, who would I have to talk to get this program out into the entire world? Ted Wilson, somebody from the General Conference, right? So I said, God, I got to meet the president. And so I started praying. I don't know how to do that. At that point, it was Paulson. I met Paulson at one time. He just pulled up beside my car in a parking lot. And I thought, hey, are you the president? And he said, I am. And I said, you know what? And I told him what I was doing, and he said, man, we need that. And then he walked away to go camp meeting or whatever. I never saw him again. So now another president gets voted in, and I start praying like crazy. And I prayed like crazy, and I said, man, God, if this is of you, you got to have me meet this guy, because it cannot be that I set it up. It cannot be that anybody introduces us. You've got to do it so that we know it's that you've done it. And so then I'm in Australia doing the outreach, and I get an email from Ted Wilson. And it says, he's going to speak at ASI in Sacramento, and he wants to know if I want to come in early and have lunch before ASI starts. And I'm like, shut up, God, that is so good. How do you do that kind of stuff? I even notified my husband, I Skyped him, like, you're not going to believe this, Brad, but the president just emailed me and asked me for lunch. And he's like, no way. How does he even know you? I don't know, but he emailed me. So then I'm coming back from Australia. My daughter's getting married, and ASI is in between those things. So I have jet lag. I have to, has anybody been the mother of the bride? Nobody does anything but you. I've gone to Australia, gave a list of everything they're supposed to do. I get home, the photographer's not ready, the florist hasn't been notified. And so it's not, I get home and there's all that stuff to do. Yet now I'm going to fly over and have lunch with the president and then fly back and do the wedding. I'm not going to go to ASI. I don't have time. My daughter's getting married. It's just going to go for lunch. My husband, I said, I'm exhausted. And he said, you've been praying for this for years. You have to go. So him and I get on a plane, we fly to Sacramento, we go to ASI. I told the cab driver, we will call you in about an hour probably, and we'll go right back to the airport. So we were just coming in for this lunch. And I walk in the building, and lunch looks like this. I was so mad. I went, wait a minute, what about lunch with me that you didn't understand? Because you're not even going to see me. There's no way I'm going to present anything. And I was just so mad. My husband started to talk to me, and he thought I better not. He knows, like, don't even talk to me, don't look at me. We should leave right now. And he's like, no, sit down, we'll be okay. And I'm like, I was just mad, because I felt like I wish that email would have said, I'm going to invite a number of ministries. Your ministry is one of them, and I want to present something to you. But that's kind of not what the email said. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm so, I was just waiting for it to be over. And Ted Wilson and Mark Finley and Michael Ryan, there were three kind of heavy hitters in our church, came walking out. And they sat down, and they talk about that they're going to do what's called Mission for the Cities. You remember when that started. And that they're going to cast a net in major communities, literally bring in speakers that will hit the community, maybe like 2 and 3 and 4 major speaking events, and literally bring in hundreds into the church. And they said they're going to start in New York, they're going to go to Brazil, they're going to do in major cities all over the world. And I started crying. I am not a crier. My husband has seen me cry a couple times when I had my child and when I got hit by a car. You know what I mean? I'm not, I've been on the streets for a long time, so I just don't cry easily. And tears started running down my face, and my husband was like, what's up with that? What's wrong? And I said, nothing. And he said, no, what's wrong? And then they're still talking about Mission for the Cities, right? And somebody comes in and they put a mic in the middle of the room and they said, if anybody has something to say, just come up and say it. And I thought, no way, I'm not saying anything. My husband says, get up there. Yeah, you know, I know you, I've known you for years. You have something to say. And I said, Brad, leave me alone. And he's like, hit me on the side. And I said, Brad, stop. And then Danny Shelton was sitting behind us. He was one of my bosses on one of the things that we do. And Danny says, do you have something to say? I said, no, you guys leave me alone. And finally he said, say something. I'm looking around to where Nelson is there, or Doug Bass, or some evangelists that most of you would know, people that have every right to say something. I am nobody. And I thought, I'm not going up there. And finally I just stood up, walked up, and I said, man, I am so proud of what you guys are wanting to do. But I came into church as a heroin addict in recovery, and no one knew how to talk to me for 10 years. It almost killed me. Unless you know how to speak to at-risk people, unless you know how to talk to the community, you will hurt them and you will hurt yourself. Thank you very much. That was like 30 seconds. Wasn't that long. And as I'm walking back to my seat, the president says, you're right, miss. We don't know how to talk to the smelly alcoholic. I don't want to be disrespectful, but we don't know how to talk to each other. And I just sat back down. And I thought, you know what? Probably it's time to get the cab. And so the meeting was over. I did not stay. I got in a cab, went back to the airport, went home, did the wedding, all of that kind of stuff. My next event, I was going to Chicago or Detroit, and I had to get up really early in the morning to get there. And I don't know why, but I took my the recovery program with me. Not that we were going to present it, but I just took it with me, had it in a briefcase, and we get to the airport early. There's a few people checking in with us to get on that flight, and Brad looks up and he says, now we're in a different state, by the way. Brad looks up and said, is that Ted Wilson? And I looked up and I thought, it is. And his wife, Nancy. And I thought, that's crazy. And I heard God say clearly, you're going to talk to him today, but not right now. He's tired. You're tired. And I thought, okay. So I checked in and I got on my plane and I saw him sitting there. Ted and Nancy. I'm going to pretend you're Nancy and you're Ted, okay? So Ted and Nancy are sitting there. So just, you got to sit a little different. A woman would never sit like that. All right, good. So I started to walk down the aisle and I see them and I thought, there they are. If this is my big chance to meet the president, to present that, what do? Do I tell them everything now? And the people walking behind me that just want to get on the plane, they're probably thinking, no, you don't tell them anything, just sit down. But I start walking really slow. Like, I don't know, what do? Do I stand out? Because, you know, they got to notice me, I got to notice them, and, you know, do I look at them? Like, you know, is God talking to you at all, you guys, you know? And I didn't even know what to do, so I get closer, and Nancy says, are you Cheri Peters? And I said, I am. And she said, I just read your book, Miracle from the Street, and she started crying. I really love it. I loved it. And I said, give me a hug. Come on, Nancy. Nancy.
Yes,
did you love that enough that I could come stay at your house?
Oh, by all means.
So the whole time, I am laying over Ted, and he is, I have never seen someone so uncomfortable. He's like, oh my goodness, she's like laying over me, you know? And Nancy, I'm saying, can I come stay at your house, you know? And she's saying, I think so. Ted is looking like, no. I don't even know him. And so then everybody behind me is really wanting me to sit down. You know, he's trying to board a plane. So I go sit down in the back of the plane, and I sit down, and I just said, God, I've read in the Bible where you talk about putting out a fleece You know, I'm putting down a fleece today. If I'm supposed to talk to him, have him wait for me when he gets off the plane. And have him say to me, I waited for you because I have a question. And I pray that all the time. The plane lands. We're just on one leg of our flight. The plane lands, and I'm going to get off the plane. I'm going to run out, right? Everybody in front of me was about 1,000 years old. They have to get up. They have to stretch, you know. They have to get someone else to get their luggage. I am like, are you kidding me? I feel like O.J. Simpson. I want to jump over folks and just say, what are you doing? Come on, you know. But you got to be polite. So I finally get off the plane, and Ted is standing there with Nancy, and he said, excuse me, I waited for you because I have a question. And I wanted to bawl, I wanted to weep. And I said, what is your question? And he said, were you the woman from ASI? And I said, yes. And he said, Mark Finley, Michael Ryan, and myself, we talked about what you said, and you are right, we are not ready. What do you suggest? And so for the next 45 minutes, we talked about friendship ministries. We talked about this program and programs like it. We talked about the cycle of evangelism. Every church has a cycle of evangelism that they think about at the beginning of the year. They want to hit this, this, and this. One thing that we forget is recovery and friendship. And so we talked about just adding that into the cycle, not changing anything else, but you add friendship in and all your other programs will be more successful. And at the end of about 45 minutes, he has to go catch a flight. I have to go catch a flight. And I looked at him and I said, I don't want to let you go because I feel like if you walk away from me, I may never see you again, and this may never happen, and that scares me. And he said, I will not forget you. This will happen. And he walked away. By the end of the night, my first meeting in Chicago, I got a letter from Sean Boonstra, Mark Finley, and Ted Wilson, a good-sized email talking about that how we met, what was talked about, and what our next move was going to be. And what we talked about with Ted Wilson is that we are so broken, but we're broken in a lot of ways, not just drugs, not just alcohol, divorce. Raise your hand if anybody in your family's been through divorce. Raise your hand if you've been through divorce, as a kid or as an adult. Has anybody in your family dealt with drug addiction? Has anybody in your family dealt with suicide? Has anybody in your family dealt with anger that's out of control? Religious addiction. We don't have to talk about that, but any of that stuff is that we talked about that, anger, divorce, alcoholism, abuse, that's happening rapidly, not only in the community, but within our own buildings. And so we talked about the need of addressing that outside of the community and within the own building so that we can heal and offer the community something. We talked about 1 in 4 children are being molested. In and out of the church, 1 in 4, boys and girls. And so if 1 in 4 are being molested, let's say that you want to go to a statistic that you feel more comfortable with, the most you can push that is 1 in 6. You can't say 1 in 20. People will tell you that's not true. 1 in 6 is the most you can push it. What stats are saying is 1 in 4 are sexualized before they even learn to talk or before they get into school, definitely before they're 18. And so if that's true, then we have people that are out of control sexually within our ranks too that need help. So not only the child, but the people that have struggles with that area. And if we don't address that, it's not going to get better. It's actually going to get worse. And if it gets worse and the community is saying, you guys are not safe, or we're not safe, and it just gets worse, we talked about that. 1 in 3 marriages are in trouble. And that's worldwide. These are worldwide stats. 1 in 3 marriages are in trouble. And not saying in trouble in the fact that they're divorcing, but in trouble as far as how they live their life. Do they love each other? Are they connected? Are we literally one flesh? That kind of stuff. But we are in trouble. The violence in marriages is 1 in 3 women in the world are being in violent situations, if not domestically abused, right? And so if that's true, we have some angry spouses that need help. So not only the fact that you have victims of violence, but you have people that just need help. So you have this kind of stuff. What they told me when I came into church, what would solve all my problems is brown rice. If I ate better, all of this stuff would go away. And I just want to tell the people that I love, if I eat better, I'll get healthier, but these problems will not go away until we address them. It's really a big deal. When I was in Australia, my younger sister texted me, and she was furious. That's Joni. I don't know if you can tell. She's a skeleton. All her teeth are rotted out. She's really in bad shape. She's psychotic because of the drug. She has what's called a drug-induced psychosis because of the methamphetamine. Then she texted me and she said, you know what? I can't believe that you keep saying that I'm an addict. I said, you know, I'm really sorry. Because I'm not saying it to hurt anyone. I'm just saying it because that's kind of what our family has been lost in addictions. And she says, I'm not an addict. And then she goes on and on and on, and she's angry, and she's yelling, and she's embarrassed, and she hates me. And so I'm on this retreat, and I said, God, I don't know what to do, because I know that this hurts her. But it's like, do I not speak and save her feelings, or do I speak because somebody might get in recovery? But I was really having a hard time with that. It's painful. For my sister, when I wrote Miracle from the Street, I put my other sister, is a stripper and sells coke for a living. And she told me I could write the book. I asked everybody in my family, can I write this? My older sister said, you can't put me in it, and when you read my book, you won't find her anywhere. But I asked everybody. My stripper said, I read your book, and you said I'm a stripper. I said, you are a stripper. And she said, yeah, but I didn't think you were going to say it. You know? So it's really weird to all of a sudden have somebody very angry at you. So I really had to work on that. I really had to deal with that. I really had to feel the pain of that. And then before I was done, God said something that I couldn't believe he said. I felt like the Holy Spirit said, you know, your sister's in denial. And I thought, duh. You know, is that the best you got, you know? And I just thought, like, I can't even believe he said that. Of course she's in denial. And then he said something that changed my life forever. I will never do ministry the same. As he said, the church is in as much denial as your sister is. They do not know that people are dying all around them, and they are comfortable in the pew. They do not know their own spiritual condition by allowing themselves to be that comfortable and not reach out to anyone. And so he said, you've got to not stop talking. And so since then I haven't. I go to Isaiah 58, which is my favorite chapter in the Bible, and it says, shout out loud, do not hold you back, raise your voice like a trumpet. You guys know I'm married to a trumpet player. I know exactly what that means. He practices, I'm trying to take a nap, it's crazy, you know. But raise your voice like a trumpet, do not shut up. I did not tell you guys to get all the scripture right, all the doctrine right. I did not tell you that that's your focus on fasting and making sure the building looks well. I told you to love one another, to reach out to the homeless, to walk out into people's lives. When you do that, Isaiah 58 goes on, when you do that, your very bones will come back to life. The diseases, the depression that you have, the darkness that you have will be like noonday. Your diseases will heal, that kind of stuff. He said, I want you to love one another. You will become like a watered garden. Healthy. People will come in and get refreshed, even sitting next to you. And so I just went from, you know, that sense of that it doesn't matter to a really sense of it matters. It's our commission. It's what we were called to do. And so God says, it's like, I will bless you when you start blessing them. And not that he doesn't bless us now, but he says it's unbelievable. The things that you think that get you stuck now, the depressions you have now, the joy of the Lord truly will become your strength, but you have to start reaching out to folks. The program that we wrote is called Celebrating Life in Recovery. It's a friendship ministry program. It is not a recovery program, a drug addict recovery program. It will work with any issue. Does anybody know any religious addicts?
Say that again.
Do you know any religious addicts?
Of course.
So what's really interesting is we think drug addicts and we think, oh, that's horrible. But a good religious addict will destroy an entire congregation. And they'll do it thinking they're doing the right thing. They literally will. Their children act out the same way as most drug addicts' children because the rules in the household are so rigid. And so religious addiction is serious. Workaholism is serious, and eating disorders, cutting, shopaholism, all of that stuff, the way we end up hiding our insecurities, our anger, all that kind of stuff. So when we talk about addiction in this program, or we talk about damage in this program, it is all the way across the board. For this program, most of the people that show up are like you and I, that have those kind of issues, divorce. If 1 in 4 people are being molested, that some have molest issues and that kind of stuff. But addicts tend to be about 2% of the people that you will draw with this program. But if you go seriously into the program and look at what is it that I still have to deal with, and you let God deal with that, it's amazing and it's so powerful. When God takes all of the really deep injuries that you have and brings healing, you will go into this community stronger knowing that you have a God that actually can heal. So the program was written for all of us. Drug addicts just benefit because it's a good program. This guy, I love him. He's a meth addict, and you can't really see his face. This face has been rebuilt 35 different times in this photo. But he's a meth addict, and his wife kicked him out. And he was so angry. Like, they had 7 kids. Kids were all born addicted to meth. They have all these kids. His wife is finally done. She wants recovery. She kicks him out. And so he gets a sawed-off shotgun, and he's going to blow her head off. And he waits in the bedroom until she walks in the door, and he pulls the gun out to blow her head off. And he realizes it wasn't her that walked in the door. It was his 7-year-old son. So everything was kind of already in motion, so he just put the gun up to his face, and he blew his face off. When the EMT folks came, they had all the tape and the crime scene, all that stuff around, but they lifted him up. They said his face pretty much slid onto the floor. I mean, he was a mess. He died 4 times on the way to the hospital. The 4th time he came to, you know what he said? Because drug addicts are so smart. He said, I think I should stop using it. I just love him. But he gets to the hospital. They reconstructed him a number of times. And this guy goes into every school all over the United States telling people that he started doing methamphetamine in high school to play better basketball. And he ended up to the point where he had a sawed-off shotgun ready to kill his wife or his kids. And so he talks to them. And they've tried to rebuild his nose. It's hard to rebuild that stuff. But he's an amazing guy, and so even the people that come that are a mess with a good program, you will literally raise up an evangelist. The person that brought me into her house didn't know that years later I'm going to be all over the world trying to get people to behave in the church and out of the church. So I think that even when you see somebody that really is a mess, don't give up on them. They are incredible folks, and they will literally do things that you could never do. So you're going to get mostly normal people. Every once in a while you get somebody that's really bad. We rewrote Steps to Christ because it was written years ago, but it was written for a temperance group. Does anybody know that Ellen White works for Women's Temperance? She works for a lot of different suffrage groups. During that time, she wrote programs specifically for at-risk recovering folks. And I think that this book, Steps to Christ, was written for them. She, in Avondale, when she lived in Australia, she had a group of homeless folks that used to go kind of behind her house. And she would sneak out there and teach them to cook and sew and literally just minister to them. So I think that this book is one of the best 12-step programs I have ever read. And so we just rewrote it. We had 5 authors. We had, let me just tell the truth. We had 5 addicts and a couple authors that went through every line. And I really wanted the addicts because it's going to go out into the community. It's going to go into colleges. And it really made a difference in the lives of somebody that maybe has no church background. And so I wanted to have it read really simply. And so we rewrote the whole thing. And everybody that has seen it, from the Illinois States to the General Conference, has given us their blessing. At first they were scared to death. To have a heroin addict rewrite some of these books was a big deal. But it turned out really well. The program that you're going to get It's got 28 video clips, a USB with every single thing that you need on that USB. So if you have none of these books, all of the books are on the USB. The only thing I tell churches is that we will not survive as a ministry if church to church just shares the material. So please buy the box sets from us if you can. But anyhow, this is a box set. Participant guides. Everybody that comes through your program will have a participant guide. That guide literally has a journal in it, has the chapters of steps to Christ in it, has a health message in it. And the reason for the health message is for most of us, we don't know the value of eating right, drinking water, exercising. We don't know the value of having healthy social networks. And so we did an acronym from the General Conference called Celebrations. Celebration is the health message that goes right through the book, and that's in their manual. So in your kit, you'll get the participant guides. If you don't like using computers or USBs, you can have everything is on those 4 discs. One of the discs says, as soon as you open it up, it says, read me first. No one ever reads that. And so I just really kind of say, read me first. That file tells you that all of this stuff, you can literally download a whole participant journal for someone on their devices, on their phones. They don't have to come in with a book if they don't want to. It's a writable file. They can write in their journal. They can do all that kind of stuff. It's on their laptop. It's on their Kindle. It's on their phones. And so it's really nice for some people just to have that. But you won't know how to do that unless you read me first. That file tells you exactly how to do that. If you decide not to read that file, call me. I don't care if you call me 1,000 times. There's people that work in our office, our creative director, and the people that put the program together, that will talk to you as many times as you want. But every question that we get usually is in that read me first file. So if you can do that. So the one bigger book is a leadership manual. Pastor Mark, he's got a copy of the leadership manual in here. Hopefully each of your leaders will have some of that. And that goes through every single thing that you need to know in order to run this program. And if you go on our website, truestep.org, you will have about 35 little video clips of people that have run the program that will say they didn't need any instruction from anyone else if they read those first 5 pages of the leader's manual. That we really, I believe, God directed us to do a great job of equipping people. This is what you need to know. This is how it's set up. We have a marketing packet that you can get from us that goes into the entire community, invites people in. We've done that. You can change that. You can tell us, you know, this is our church, this is our dates, these are the contact informations, and we put all of that on for you and then send it back to you. You can do your own work or you can get it from us. So we've tried to make that as easy as possible for the leaders. The program, in the Leader's Guide, it will say, here's the program. Celebrating Life is a 14-week friendship program, Christian recovery program. Talks about what the program is, what the goals of the program is, what the schedule is, and every single thing that you know you need, even from here's the program, here's the goals, here's the schedule, and just your job as leaders or as facilitators is to just protect the time. It's not to know what to say. If you give me advice or try to counsel me, and God has taken me another direction of healing, you stepped right in His way. So really, your job is just to say, I'm going to protect the next couple hours that we're hanging out together, and we're going to trust that the Holy Spirit will step in and be the healer, that God Himself will be the healer. If you see somebody trying to fix someone else, you just stop them. As a facilitator, I will say, you know what, that's great advice, and I love the advice you give. But in this particular group, we just don't do that. And because we have rules that we read every night, and I'll show you those, you'll know why we don't do that. And it's easy to just say, And as facilitators, that's my job. If somebody starts to fix, if somebody starts to talk too much, could you imagine having me in your group? You're going to have to shut me up every week. You know, Cheri, I love your stories. But, you know, everybody's going to talk 3 to 5 minutes. So can I say, man, I love you? But what do you think about what was that? You know, I'm literally taking to the next person. If they still can't shut me up, you can literally talk to me afterwards. You can go over the rules with me, all that kind of stuff. But as a facilitator, you're not there to counsel. You're not there to fix them. You're there to make sure that the group runs, functions. If somebody, let's say we're talking about forgiveness on this night, and somebody else says, you know what, I want to talk about my husband and his anger. Oh wait, you know what, that's another night. But, you know, I'm sorry that you're going through that, but let's stay on forgiveness tonight. And so the facilitator literally keeps people focused, keeps a time schedule. And it says that in that time schedule that I put here, is that you literally, let me see if I can find, that you arrive at 6:30 to 7 as a group, so that you can pray together, you can put your personal belongings together. If you have an iPhone, or a really nice purse with probably some really nice money in there.
There you go.
Don't leave it sit out on the table. You know, most people will never touch it, but you will have someone that will. So it's like you arrive, you lock up your stuff, you put it away. I have $1 million policy on everything I own. So if somebody steals from me, I just upgrade. I don't even mind, you know. But most people don't have that. So you really have to make sure you come in, put things away. I even tell people don't bring valuables. You know, just don't bring them. Because, you know, if someone, I did it, when I moved from California, my license, even though I took the state boards, California has a special license for psych nursing, that we don't do OBGYN or geriatrics. And so that license, that nursing license, isn't recognized in most other states. So when I moved, I tried to get a job in a hospital, and they told me that, you know, you'd have to go back and get geriatrics and OBGYN. And so instead they hired me as an art therapist. I had no training in art therapy, but I did a lot of my healing through there. So I noticed when people came in, especially the kids, the most damaged kids, I would say, you know, we're going to paint like a leaf, right? And they would take a whole thing of oil paint, green, and just put the whole thing on their plate. I'm thinking we're going to paint a leaf, you know? And then they wouldn't wash their brushes out. They would usually be the one that spilled stuff. And the more damaged somebody is, the more they're going to trip all over themselves. They're not going to respect what you have. They're not going to do anything but that's the language of the wounded. That is their damage. And so you have to know that some people will do all of that kind of stuff. They're going to be messy. They're going to probably not talk the same. But as a healer, you get to see that improvement. I used to watch kids go from wasting stuff, not taking care of brushes, not taking care of anything, to all of a sudden respecting the material, washing out their stuff. And so I know, even the horse ranch I have a horse ranch for ours kids. When they self-initiate, and I don't have to tell them anymore that we're going to do this or that, and they actually do it, I know that they're healing. So when you start having people come in, don't judge them at all. Some people are going to waste stuff. Some people are going to be disrespectful. Some people are going to not know how to socialize well. Let that play out and let God convict them. You just love them. Your only job as a facilitator is how do I set these boundaries and literally let God show up and do what God does best. And if anybody has any questions as we go through that, just stop me. And coming in, so you're going to come in, you're going to arrive at 6:30 to 7, you're going to pray, you're going to set up registration tables, you're going to do all that kind of stuff. On the registration tables are the participant guides. In the leader's manual, it says on week 3 or so, you get a water bottle for people, because a lot of people don't drink water. And so if you got a water bottle like this is a I love this one. You get a water bottle, any kind of water bottle, and you put Celebrating Life on it, put your church's name on it. It's a cool thing to give in your handout. You don't charge anyone for that. You do fundraisers if you have to. Some churches charge, and I think, you know what? This is the only group that you will ever run that you don't want to charge anybody anything. You know, this is a friendship thing, and you want to host people. So one of the things is a water bottle given out. The next gift you're going to give probably is a a cookbook or a little bit of a health message. And a lot of people, like I didn't know how to cook at all. And I didn't know what things were good. I didn't even know that artichoke is good for your liver. All those kind of things that as you start to learn, it's really nice to gift somebody with something like that. Another gift that you want to give is a Bible. I use the Life Recovery Bible because it is a Bible that gives testimonies, talks about addiction, really leads people from these addiction testimonies right into the Word of God. It's so beautiful and people respond really well. So those are the 3 gifts that you would give throughout the weeks. But on opening night, you'll come in, you'll welcome everybody. And the welcoming everybody is just to say, hi, I'm glad everybody's here, and just tell a little bit about what the group is. And then you really want to start to say, when you welcome, is you want to present the leaders. And so I'm going to bring up you as a leader. Anybody else, who are the men that are going to lead out? Okay, Pastor, and you. So come on up. Come on up. And so the first night, you literally are going to stand up in front of the group and just stand up and look at them. They're so beautiful. So this is our group. And every one of us is going to speak for 2 minutes about who we are. And we're going to invite people into our group. So I'm going to start just to give an example, and then I want you guys to actually do this. 2 minutes. So I'm going to start, and it's really funny because most people think that I'll start and say I'm a drug addict. But I start, my name is Cheri, and I have never been loved. My mom tried to self-report. She had kids really early. I have felt rejected most of my life, and I've acted out in a lot of different ways because of that. If you can relate to that, please join my group. That's all I say. I don't go on and on. I don't talk for a long time, but now the next person goes up and you say a little bit.
Hi, I'm Pastor Rod, and
my name is Rod.
My name is Rod, and I was an alcoholic, and I think that a little bit of experience with that may be able to help you.
No?
Come join my group.
So yeah, you can help yourself by joining. So you're a peer going on the same journey. So my name is Rod. I've had problems with alcoholism. If you could relate to that, please join my group. But he's not even going to say, I'm Pastor Rod. Not even going to say, I'd love to help you if there's anything I could do. Because as soon as you say that, somebody feels less than you. And so thank you for letting me kind of do a teaching while we do that. So he simply is going to say who he is. If you wanted to go further, he was a workaholic. He chased money for a long time. He could really hook into a lot of people that have those things. And so if he wants to speak for the full 2 minutes and talk about that, and then he simply says, if you could relate to that, please join my group.
Hi, my name is Joyce. I have had family members who have had addictions, who have wreaked havoc through our family, and we have found ways to forgive them. And if that's what you're looking for, join my group.
And so what she said, she literally is going to draw in most of the people that have codependency, that have tried to fix people, that have had pain with addiction in their family, all of that stuff. So she's going to get a really big spectrum of folks that have been injured by addicts. For every single addict, there's 35 people trying to help them. So there's more people like her than there is about addiction. So that was really good, really good.
Hello, my name is Jim. I grew up in a family that I can honestly say loved the Lord. And I'd like to help people learn how to love the Lord and come closer to Him.
Okay, so you know what? One more. Because this is not a Bible study, right?
Right.
So is there anything in your life that you've ever dealt with?
When I look at it,
Yeah.
I guess I grew up in what I would call a normal family that I can't say.
So what are you saying? And so do you hear what he's saying? And that is so amazing. I just want to kiss you on the face. That is incredible. So Jim, right? Jim, my name is Jim. And I grew up so protected and so loved that sometimes I think I don't even understand this kind of dysfunction. And if you could relate to that, please join my group. So you get a whole group of people that says, you know what, I don't understand any of this, but I want to, and they'll join your group. But it's like never say, really never say, I'd like to help you because you set the bar like this. It's like we're going to walk together and we're going to go through this together, but I don't understand any of it. I've been loved. I feel good. I have a nice life. And people are going to respond to that. Go ahead, sir.
Cheri, is this only done on the first night?
Only the first night. At the first night, everybody's going to pick a group to go to. If you have a small group that shows up, you may only have a couple leaders that you need. So you figure out what kind of group that you want to run. Yes.
Okay, if you have more than one leader in your group and you have smaller groups, are they going to meet together for the video clips and then go off to?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Yeah.
Okay, and my other question would be then, how many people is too many in one of the groups?
The number of people that you want in a group is anywhere from 3 to 7. If you get bigger than that, it's okay. But 3 to 7, you can really talk. You can bond. Your small group tables are just that. It's a very intimate thing. If you get 20 or 30 in a group, then you literally break off. For his group, hopefully, he will have a co-facilitator. Somebody they can process with afterwards. If he calls in sick one night, that guy could take over, that girl could take over. So every one of us will have a partner. So you have the group leader, and then you have a partner that is really on your same page. You really want to pick up your partner well. So go ahead, 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Dave, and I've learned in the past that I have a very addictive personality. When I indulge in anything, I overdo it. So I've learned to channel my addiction to Jesus Christ. Now I want to get to heaven. I can quote quite a bit of Bible verses, and I just stay focused on what God wants me to do here, and I love people now. I don't worry about alcohol.
Did he give his testimony or did he give a sermon? So he gave a sermon. And I love you for that, because you really, that is your heart. But all you can say, which is incredible, is, hi, my name is Dave. I have an addictive personality, and I've got lost in a number of things over the years. If you can relate to that, join my group. Don't sermonize, let God sermonize. And it's really tough for Christians to do that. Let God do that. He's better at it than we are. And all the way through this program, you're going to give Bible verses. You're going to go, who is God? Who is Christ? What is repentance? You're going to go some deep spiritual stuff. Don't do it on the first night. You will skip it. Do you hear what I'm saying? Don't make me come over there. You don't look like And so the first night when you do the leaders thing, the most important thing is don't sermonize, don't come in as a helper. God is the helper. It is really important to know that.
So they only do that on the first night. What if somebody comes in the second night that wasn't there the first night because they couldn't get there? How do you know what group to put them in?
You know, you can, if somebody comes in on the second night, you can tell them about the different groups. We have a group of men over here with the pastor or with Rod, and I would try to not call him pastor on tonight, on these nights, but with Rod, and we've got someone over here, and then we've got Cheri. So you kind of tell them. If people show up on the third and fourth and fifth night, you have an extra table, and you have a facilitator for people that drop in. You do the same thing with them, but they are their own group until they decide to come more frequently. If they show up on the 6th or 7th night, you don't want to interfere with any of your groups. You literally do that separate table where you tell them you're going to start the program again in November. You know, because you really want people to bond. I want to become your friend. And we are different in a lot of different ways. But you are my sister in Christ, and I'm going to survive only because I walk alongside you and you will all walk alongside me. So you don't want to drop people in your groups throughout the 14 weeks.
What if you do this and, you know, you've got 20 people there and 10 people end up with one person and, you know, you've got, you know, divided between a couple others and then one person doesn't have anybody. What do you do then?
You can join that person into another group. You can literally bring them into another group. Have them be the extra table person.
Okay.
We've had the worst we've ever had is on one group in New Zealand, they had a group member that, or a facilitator that stood up and only 2 people went to her group. She felt terrible. Like, you know what, there's 2 people, but those 2 people were so needy and had so much stuff that it was ordained that way. So don't, if you have 1 or 2 people or you have 10 people, don't judge anything by that. Trust that God knows what He's doing, and that's what you're with. Don't feel it personal. Don't take it personal. Don't let your ego come in, because you know, some people will get a ton of folks, some people will not get more than 3 or 4, and that's fine. It's fine. And when a group time happens, like you have the introducing of the leader, then you go over that we're going to read through Steps to Christ. We're going to read through Steps to Christ. We're going to, every week, we're going to have a, let me just get here so I can read this better. Every week, we're going to literally go through 1 chapter of Steps to Christ. We're going to watch a video clip, usually 15 minutes. You're going to then break up into your smaller groups. You're going to answer some questions that the leaders will have. The questions are open-ended questions. You literally put it out there, and I'll show you some of those. You put it out there after they watch the clip, and then you shut up. Sometimes people say, what if nobody says anything? Don't say anything. If it's quiet for 5 minutes, it's the hardest thing to do is just wait for the process to happen. Once that happens and somebody finally starts talking, someone else will talk. By the time you get your 6th week or 7th week, the healing is unbelievable. But you are not to jump in and rescue people. Even if I say, you know, have some tissue in the room, and it's in the leader's guide, to bring tissue in the room in case somebody does want to cry. If somebody cries, do not touch them. If you start crying over something that you need to cry about, and I come up and go like this, what do you think happens? You're going to stop. I don't have a right to stop her from crying. She may have never cried about this. And if I hand her a tissue, what's going to happen? It's going to stop. Don't even hand them a tissue. If they have snot dripping out of their face, do not rescue them. They know where the tissue is. They know where their sleeve is. Let them do it themselves. And it's the only time in maybe someone's life that someone will say, it is safe to feel here. You can feel here. We're not going to tell you to shut up. We're not going to tell you it's okay. It may not be okay. And we may have to grieve that. But it's like you just let it happen. And you don't rescue at all. And as a leader, when somebody tries to rescue, my only job is to say, no, let her grab it. You know, and I can say that because we'll go through the rules and I'll show you. When you get ready to establish this group, you guys have already done that. Go through the board, go through the pastor, make sure everybody knows what you're doing. The pastor's, it's a really important role for him to have when you do a friendship program, is because the pastor will give a sermon throughout the 14 weeks every once in a while and just say a little bit about recovery and about what's happening in the building. He'll wrap a sermon around that. So that shows pastoral support. And so you just say the pastor is you don't have to run this group, you don't have to do anything, because pastors sometimes get run ragged. We have to do everything. And so it's like being careful not to do that, but have them from the pulpit show support. If you have testimonies throughout the 14 weeks and the pastor wants to use a testimony, have somebody come up and say, Dave, you know what, I love what you said last week. Can you come up and just give 5 minutes on that? And you make them write it out, keep them to 5 minutes, and then you go on with the sermon. So the pastor really is kind of showing the group, using the group, supporting the group, but from the pulpit. Getting ready, you select a venue, you select a night, you select a time. Make sure that you're really respectful to other people that are running programs in your church. You don't want to step on their time. You don't want to step into their night, so you select all that kind of stuff. If somebody says, you know what, let's have it Saturday at 3. Has anybody researched where successful programs land? They don't land Saturday at 3. You know, and so you have to say that if somebody, Barner Group and other studies have said these are the most successful nights of the week to run a group, these are the most successful times, do some little research on that and find out what those times are. When you start doing times, when we're going to have our meeting, do we have enough space to break up in groups if we need it? Like there's some tables out here, there's a place over here, we can meet over there, so do we have enough room? So think about that, where would that room be, how would we break up? Think about if somebody comes into your group and they're suicidal, do I know where to refer them to? In the community, who works with people that are suicidal? What is a suicidal hotline? Who are the counselors or whatever that are going to work with that? Make sure someone in your recovery group goes and says, hi, my name is Cheri, and we're running this program, and I heard that if we have somebody struggling, that you're that's what you guys do. So can you tell me a little bit about what you do, and can I get your card and some information? And you start doing social networking with the community. They will love you for it, and you will never have to deal with something that's over your head. If somebody has mental illness, go ahead and find out who deals with that in the community. If somebody needs food or money or gas money, find out who does that. Don't do it yourself. As you will enable people, and pretty soon you will have people coming in just to get money. And so you don't do any of that. You don't give rides, you don't, and I'm not saying never. There's always those exceptions, but really set boundaries, because you don't want the group to be anything but a friendship group. I am not taking care of your rent, I'm not taking care of your food, I'm not watching your kids. If I am your sponsor and I could choose to be your sponsor, I would love to be your sponsor, because you just have some really fun things. And you call me during the week and you say, you know what, do you want to have coffee, or you would never say that.
No.
Do you want to go out and just take a walk?
Right.
You know, if she says that, absolutely. But that's a healthy thing and something that we're promoting. So it's like you can do that kind of stuff, but don't enable anyone. Anybody have questions about that? The next thing is you're going to go over what's really fun is, let me find it in here. You talk about your team, the materials. On one of the pages in the Leader's Guide, it talks about what you need to either print or purchase. And so it gives you a whole list of things that you're going to need, promotional material, all that. And then, you know, if you want to advertise for the community on the radio, you guys did a great job with advertising this. I mean, it was really nice. Opening night, the leaders will cover that to explain what to do. Let me get the rules. I want to find that. The group rules. And the group rules is really fun. I don't think I put them up here. Let me see if I did. No, let me go back. So the group rules, and every single night, you're going to go over group rules, every single night. And so, because I don't want to be the person that goes over the rules every night, the first time, one of your leaders is going to read this. And you've got a PowerPoint that you have on the USB. The PowerPoint is up there, has all the rules on it, has the whole program on it, has one transition on it, has a video clips on it. Everything that you need is on the PowerPoint. But so the first night I may read it, and the rule one, we're going to read, and I tell people we're going to read these every night, every time we meet, because I need it. I really need it. Every 12-step group on the planet reads rules every night.
Do you read the rules just before you break out into your groups?
Yes, and it will be right.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right on there. And the reason you do is if you have to call somebody out for a rule in the group, you just read it.
Yeah.
It really gives people good reminders. So rule number one is let God be the healer. Let God be the healer. Don't ask me, like I'm not going to ask you, Sabrina, what do you think I should do? Because as a facilitator, you said, you know what, let's take that to God in prayer. What do you think about what you just saw? So you redirect them back to the question, and you don't answer for them, even if you have the answer. It's really tough. Even if you have the answer, bite your tongue. Because God, they may not be ready to receive it until week 7, week 8, week 9. And you give it too soon and it will not help them. So you got to trust that God will do it. Don't give them an answer. So let God be the healer. Acknowledge that God is in charge of your recovery. Be aware of the Holy Spirit's presence and pray for His guidance, His wisdom. As we take each each step together. Be supportive of other members. Don't try to fix them. And you're going to read this every week. Don't try to fix them. God is the healer. Let him do the healing. The first week I'll read this. The second week I will say to all the members, can someone else read this next week? Will you volunteer next week? Or if somebody raises their hand, thank you so much. The next week, you ask again for a volunteer the next week. But pretty soon the leaders are not reading this. Everyone else is reading it. Rule number 2, share freely but briefly. I'm horrible at this. Keep your sharing on topic. Being discussed, remember that each group member will heal as they share and connect. So we're saying that not will heal when you have such a powerful answer to give them. They're going to heal just by connecting with each other. So let everybody talk. There's going to be somebody that doesn't talk hardly at all. You're quieter than I am. I could overrun the group, and she's got wisdom that I need to hear. So the facilitator has to say, 3 to 5 minutes, everybody, and let everyone share, because we're going to be blessed by hearing from each other. So freely share, take turns talking, don't interrupt, and limit your comments to 3 to 5 minutes. Some people even have a talking stick. So the person that with the talking stick is the only one talking. When they give it up, the other person can say something. So it's like you want to learn without a talking stick, without any of that. You just want to learn that it's not your job to say anything. Anything. I'm not even going to say, wow, man, that's horrible, or that's sad, or that's amazing. Don't say anything. Let the person say it, and then say thank you for sharing, and go to the next person.
What if one of the other people interrupts that person because they have something to say about it, but it's not their turn yet? You have to.
Rule number 2.
Okay.
Your only job.
Remind them.
Yeah, and you want to remind it without shaming anyone. You want to say something like, you know what, I love your advice, and I love the fact that you have such a heart. But during this 25 minutes, and we're just going to let people talk, and then you go to the next person. So you do it in a way that's not shaming, and you do it in a way, you've just read the rules, you know exactly what to go back to, and you can do that. Rule number 3 is don't cross-talk. If I came every week and only talked to you, man, this week has been really tough, and you know me now by now, and you know how I am, and I went home, and and I'm only talking to you, what's the rest of the group going to feel like? They're going to feel left out. They're going to close out. They're not going to feel connected. And so you remind people not to cross-talk, not just to talk to one person. That even if I don't know everybody yet, is I want to talk to everybody in the room, and I want to look at them. And so no cross-talk. In cross-talk, 2 or more people start sharing with each other, excluding the rest of the group. This includes interrupting, adding to someone's story. I don't want to think I know the next thing that you're going to say, right? So I don't want to say, oh man, I have felt like that to you. I know exactly what you're saying. Don't say that. Because you know what? It might be true and it might not be true. But you need to say your own story. So it says, don't interrupt, don't add to someone's story, don't give advice, don't hand them a tissue. Emotions are